He says he is a survivor. He says he wants his story to be told, and the abuse he says he endured answered for, as awarding some of the following descriptions can be considered graphic. A Carlisle native, a Pennsylvania University graduate, 30 years of business experience. This Pennsylvania native choosing to keep his face anonymous.
This is not an easy story to tell.
He says the Roman Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg was a central part of his childhood, describing himself as very involved. He attended church regularly, had his baptism and confirmation there. He eventually attended St. Patrick's School in Carlisle through 8th grade during the 1980s. He achieved something his classmates looked forward to doing, become an altar boy.
You got to leave and do any sort of funerals that were there. You got a free break from school. So being an altar boy was kind of a cool thing.
At an altar boy retreat in a place outside of Carlisle, he says he met a priest within the Diocese of Harrisburg, Father Herbert Schenk.
From there, it became a very tumultuous relationship. It became very unhealthy.
He says Schenk would eventually take advantage of him in a physically abusive way.
It was kind of an awkward situation where we were completely naked in this pool, and he was trying to grab me and grope me and pull me and just kind of like, what is going on? I thought this was something new. Here I am, a very young 12-year-old boy with this older man who is not a family member in this weird situation. It was my first introduction to massages. I remember it was very awkward, and I was very kind of put off by, why is he grabbing me? What's going on? Why is he trying to fondle me?
He says the abuse at the hands of Schenk would continue for a year and a half. We have been working on this story of allegations for about 2 weeks, tracking down leads. We wanted to get Schenk's side of the story, and we found him at his house the day before the diocese released their list of people accused of abuse. The diocese confirmed to Fox 43 before they released the list publicly that Father Schenk had been the focus of complaints. How many individuals you had this kind of a relationship with?
No, not off the top of my head. It certainly wasn't more than very few, but I don't want to, like I say, I don't want to go into that right now. I don't know. I really don't. I put the best face on it possible and didn't think it as being sexually molestation, like he mentioned, it was massaging, and I thought, okay, fine, that's acceptable. But like I say, right now, perhaps later when all this comes out, there might be a time when, I don't know.
Is there anything you'd like to say to any of these individuals who are coming forward?
Well, like I say now, I wish I had, even though I spent 2 years and 4 months in therapy, the last part of therapy was a little bit different than usual. The point being, I wish I had, when I came back here, I wish I had stayed in therapy, that I could come to the point where I might be able to face them. I am, obviously. These were people that were important to me in my own maybe messed up way. But they were not people that I consider taking advantage of.
Our source says a few years after his abuse ended, Schenk showed up at his father's home. It would be the last time he saw Schenk. He said Schenk told him and his father he was being defrocked from the Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg. Defrocked due to allegations of molesting a boy while at St. Rose of Lima in York. Also, he says Schenk asked a question that shocked him.
He turned to me and asked me why I did not stop him, which I thought was probably one of the most amazing, ridiculously absurd questions I've ever heard come out of a person's mouth. I responded back to him because I was a child, and I had left.
In the list released by the Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg today, it says Herbert Schenk has multiple allegations of sexual abuse of children. Now, this is just the beginning of this survivor's story. It's a story of even more alleged abuse and how it ended for him. We tracked down people in charge of a property where he says abuse allegedly happened. Their response, with more answers from Schenk and an answer from law enforcement in our full story that I'll have for you Monday night at 10. Reporting live in the studio, Jack Ebel, Fox 43 News.